we now have a functioning application, but we should do some cleanup and also make our create and update Rustasians endpoints a bit more useful, because right now they just create responses that include just the number of affected rows. Instead, for the create Rustasian endpoint, we should return a response with a Rustasian that was just created, the full object from the database, and same for update Rustasians. We should return a response that contains the updated object, so a fully loaded object from the database with fresh values that were just updated. We will do so in a new module, so we will create a new repositories module, and in there we're gonna repositories rs, we're gonna move all the logic that we have that's database related, everything that has to do with Diesel will end up in here, keeping our project nice and clean. So we want a repository for Rustasians. We're gonna call it Rustasian repository. Let's define the module up here. There we go. And yeah, let's start defining functions. We want to have all the CRUD related functions here in this repository, and then our endpoints will call the repository not Diesel directly or any schema related function. So everything should be in here. We need functions for reading and then updating, saving and deleting entries. Let's start with a find method which will load a single entry, a single Rustasian from the database and return that. We need the connection, SQLite connection, and we're gonna take a reference to it because we don't want to consume the connection in here. We should be able to reuse the same connection also in other methods, so the same connection should be passed around in multiple occasions in the same endpoint. There's no need to consume the connection. Besides the connection, we also need the ID of the Rustasian that we should load, and then we will return a result. If we find the Rustasian, we're gonna return fully Rustasian object struct, otherwise we will return an error. Diesel provides this nice result wrapper, calling it query result. So here we are gonna return query result, and this will wrap Rustasian. Nicely done, like this. Okay, we can now basically use this find endpoint from find function, find repository function from the view Rustasians endpoint. I'm gonna copy paste the logic in here. Yeah, we need to import the Rustasians table from schema module, and then yeah, we need also the find method, which for that we need the prelude use from Diesel. This will take care of the find call. Nice. And then yeah, in our view endpoint now we can replace all this with Rustasian repository find connection and ID. Nice. And then we can move on with get Rustasians that returns multiple Rustasians. We can make a method in here. For that we can call it find multiple, and then SQLite connection, that we are going to use for the query, and then the query result, which is going to contain a vector of Rastasians, so something like this. And then we can paste the logic from the route in here. Nicely done. Probably it's a good idea to make the limit configurable. Then our function becomes a lot more reusable than hard coding into 100. So yeah, let's call an argument, a limit argument. It should be integer 32, and then we pass it down to load. Oh yeah, not to load, but I messed up here. Limit. Okay, Diesel expects I64. Nice. Okay, back to our endpoint, and let's call the repository with find multiple, and the limit is gonna be 100 here. Okay. Perfect. We took care of 2 of our endpoints. Now let's move on to the more complex one, the create point. And here let's make one more function, create, and then again we need the connection, and also the new Rastasian that contains the new entries that should be inserted into the database, and it will return a query result of Rastasian. So a single Rastasian if everything goes well, instead of the number of affected rows that these insert into returns. And also we're going to get rid of this into inner. We want to pass straight new Rastasians here in the create function, and not the JSON value, because mainly we don't want our repository to know about JSON or CRD. There's no point. We will do this here in the color. So instead of new Rastasian, it will be new Rastasian into inner. And yeah, okay. We need to now take care of the part, fix the signature, and yeah, now we need a way to retrieve the last inserted ID from the database in order for us to load the Rastasian entry from the database with this ID. If we have the ID, easy, we can use the find function and then basically return whatever this find function gives us, because we have the same signature, query result Rastasian. So yeah, essentially we can do this, but yeah, the tricky part is now how to get the last inserted ID in the database. Yeah, having SQLite, having chosen SQLite makes things harder, because SQLite doesn't provide such functionality. We will have to build the logic on our own, and probably there is no reliable way to do so. But yeah, let's try. So we need to call the function. We can call it last inserted ID, which will give us the ID that was lastly inserted in the database. So we can make a private function last inserted ID. We need the connection here. And we're gonna return a query result with the ID, hopefully, if everything went well. And in here, what we're gonna do is basically we're gonna query the Rastasians table and select the ID. We're gonna order it by ID descending. This will give us like the biggest ID, since ID is a primary key. And yeah, we're gonna return this ID, and we will hope that this was indeed the ID belonging to the entry that we inserted up here, which might not be the truth, especially if we have many inserts in the same second. It could be that we get the wrong ID here, but yeah, there is no reason to worry about that, since it's not very serious application. If we decide to make this into a serious application, we will switch to a better, more featureful engine like Postgres, and then we're gonna use the functions provided there. But yeah, for now this is good enough. So from the Rastasians table we select the ID, and then we are gonna order by Rastasians also ID, and then descending, so desk, and yeah, we're gonna return the result of this query, although we want to limit it to just one record. We don't want to always load all the records and all the IDs in here. So yeah, we will use the first function from Diesel. We're gonna pass it to the query, the connection, sorry. And yeah, we got the last inserted ID like that. We pass down the connection, and yeah, probably we need to take care of error handling a bit, because here, if this Diesel insert into statement, if this fails, we're gonna still go on and insert and load the object with the last inserted ID and return it to the caller. And yeah, that is probably not what they expect. They probably expect an error if something goes wrong here, so we're gonna use the question mark, which will tell Rust to basically return here. If there is an error, return the error, otherwise move on to the next line. But yeah, the compiler will only make it to the next line only if this insert statement succeeds. And then, okay, this self-find statement, we also need to take proper care here. Instead of last ID, so in case that last ID is not somehow available, if this query fails, we need again to do some error handling and propagate the error above instead of loading, or try to load, because if we don't do this, load will fail because find expects an ID here and not a result, query result, so we are not able to compile this in the first place. That's good. The Rust compiler looking after us. But yeah, now we have what we wanted. So our create endpoint now will return the last inserted Rastasian as an object, which take us now to the next endpoint, which is the update one, which, yeah, this is gonna be a bit easier. And we're gonna make one more function here. We're gonna call it save. Again, we need the SQLite connection, then the ID of the Rastasian that we are updating and the Rastasian value or values, plural, that we want to put in our database. And here again we have the same signature as above, query result that contains a Rastasian. Pasting our logic that we have from the endpoint. Again, here we need to take care of any errors, propagate them above. If the update statement works correctly, then we need to just return self-find with the ID. Oh, of course, we also need the connection. Simple as that. See, now having this find function makes our life a lot easier. This is a nice reusable function we can use in many different places, making our logic a lot more robust. Okay, yeah, we can go back to the endpoint and now call our repository and then the save method. But yeah, the Rastasian here, remember again we have JSON that wraps the Rastasian, and here we're expecting a Rastasian, so we should use the into_inner method again here to unwrap it. Great. Now just a delete endpoint is left. We're gonna make a simple delete function, basically the same logic over there, no need to change anything. Delete. And then here we will return query result, but not the Rastasian, since we do not have the entry anymore. Hopefully after that this is deleted, no Rastasians will exist at this point, so we will keep returning number of affected rows, which is a usize. Diesel delete will return a usize type. Okay, yeah, of course, not dot, but like this. Great. Our repository is ready. Our endpoints now talk to the repository, and we have no knowledge of Diesel or our Rastasians table in our main RS file and in our endpoint, so we can get rid of these use statements. Our logic is nicely abstracted now. Okay, but yeah, let's test things. Do our endpoints still work? Let's see. Let's recompile. Good, and then yeah, we can start playing a bit. Let's see, we can let's create a new Rastasian. This is a post to Rastasians, content type application JSON. Then we can call this Rastasian foo_buzz Rastasian, and then the email is gonna be foo_buzz. Okay, creation was successful. Let's now view the Rastasian. See, now I already have the ID. See, it's cool. I created the Rastasian, I got the new entry, I got the ID of the newly created Rastasian, so I can immediately use the view endpoint to load the Rastasian and see its details. Otherwise I would have the number of affected rows. Now our endpoint acts a lot more like a REST endpoint. Let's also use the index endpoint to make sure that we return everything. Indeed, we have our old Rastasian with ID number 2 and then the new Rastasian with ID number 3. Let's try to update the new Rastasian now. Put call. The ID is no longer 1 but 3. Let's change that. And then we have the put verb. And then instead of foo buzz, we're gonna make the Rastasian name to be foo bar. And then the email also foo bar instead of foo buzz. Okay, this looks like it worked. It gave us back the updated values. See, the new email is here, the new name. And then let's try again the index endpoint to see that we have the updated values here. Also the email, you see. All good. And then finally let's delete the new Rastasians. So ID 3 and let's delete it. Oops, an extra space. Alright, this worked. View Rastasians should only return 1 Rastasian. Indeed, great, everything works.